In this video, I'm just going to show you how to create an appointment. So appointments are the same whether they are a job or a service call. So there are two ways to do this. We can either go into the appointment screen, and up in the top left, you see that little box with a pencil in it. That's a new appointment. So if we go into there, it will pop up a new appointment that has everything blank. This is the normal way I do things, just because I don't want to go into other menus and it's easier for me. The other way of creating an appointment is if it's a job, I can go to the jobs section in the bottom right, and then I can search for my job. So to do that, you can just tap in the blue field up at the top and that'll pop open a search function. So if I'm working at Select Sound or St. Luke's, whatever I'm doing, I can just do a quick search for it. So let's go to non-billable hours, Select Sound Service. So now that I'm in this project or this job, if I go to appointments, it will, and then I click new, it will populate an appointment for that project. Here you see the project number 4006 that's automatically been put in there because I went from the job to the appointment and created one. So I'm going back, I'm going to home just to refresh this. I'm going to appointments. So now I'm just at a normal appointment, so I'll do this how I normally do it. So I'll click a new appointment and work type. That's regular or PW. It's going to be regular for the most part. Service code. So keep in mind all these options are here because this is for service calls and jobs. So if you're doing the actual job, that's an install job. If you're doing work at the shop, which is a job, that's non-billable job. These other options are for service calls, so a sound, and basically these options tell how it gets priced, because we have different rates for a service call that's sound versus programming versus other versus nurse call. So sound, programming, other labor, nurse call, health, and bell programming are all service call options. Install job and non-billable are job options. So make sure if this is a job, you're always doing install job, like a normal on-site job, not a job at the shop. So since this is at the shop, I'm going to do non-billable. Click done. Start date. If you just tap in that box, today I started at 06. You can either use those little plus or minuses or tap in there and you can set it for whatever you want. Make sure when you click this start date, it'll always default to right now's date and time. So if you're going back a couple days, you got to make sure you click up in here and change the date also. So I had no travel, I haven't taken lunch yet, but if I took lunch, it's going to be probably at 11. So we'll put that in there. Lunch end time, it's going to be 11:30. And I know sometimes we lump together our breaks, and that's totally fine, but make sure you're still just putting 30 minutes for lunch. And then pause hours. Pretty soon you won't have to put 30 minutes in here. Pause hours is basically just when you were at that job site but you weren't working on that job site. So your lunch is a pause hour. If, say, I'm on a job site and somebody calls and asks me to remote in to help them look at something, I'll also put however long I was doing that remoting into another site in this pause hours. So a lot of times if you don't keep up with this day to day, when you do the lunch, you'll say I'm doing lunch for Monday. If I open this today and Monday was a few days ago, I have to change this date and time to Monday. But when I go to the lunch start time, this will also default to today's date and time. So I have to make sure I keep changing this to reflect it. So labor hours, you're going to just put however many hours you were working. So if it's 8, you're going to do 8. And make sure that you're using minutes and hours and not rations or fractions. Because I know a lot of times in our paperwork we'd say we worked for 1.5 hours. Well, this is all done in minutes and hours, so make sure it's 1 hour and 30 minutes. So that's 8. I don't have any travel. So since this knows my start date and my lunch time, it says the pause hours. It knows my labor hours. It automatically puts in my end time, which is going to be 2:30 p.m. If I have a POV, there's POV mileage. So right here is where you have to make sure you're in the correct box also. Since this screen is for service calls and jobs, make sure that you're putting the work done in the correct box. If you're on the job, work done for job. If you're on the service call, work done for service call. I know it seems self-explanatory when I say it out loud, but a lot of people make this mistake. So just make sure you are putting the work done in at the correct area. If you're on a job, you can just put, I terminated 8 rooms and device 2, or whatever you did. If you flip 2 rooms, 24 and 25, whatever that is. So project number will autofill when I get the task number. The project number is the actual job or service call, and the task number is what task in that job. So if I go to task and look up and I search for select, I'll find there's a lot of options here for select sound. So since select sound service, these are non-billable hours, there's multiple things that we can do. Here number 1 says it's admin. Here number 2 says it's PTO. Here number 3 says it's holiday. There's 4 is maintenance, and 5 is IT. So even though it's all the same job, there'll be different tasks. How this will look like if you're at like a St. Luke's or a Stoughton or something like that, different tasks will be represented by different kind of stages in that job. So one might be a wiring, one might be a terminating, one might be a programming. So you're just going to select the most appropriate task. So for me, that's admin. So right now, it put in the project number and the task number and the task description. So I know exactly what it is. So after that, I click save. And it'll take a second. And it'll sync so that it goes to, since it's all internet based, anytime you change data, it has to go and send it on up so it's reflected in the system properly. So once this is done syncing, we can go back and I'll show you what that looks like. So now I go back, and there it is at the bottom. At 6 a.m. I was assigned to Select Sound Service, project 4006-1. That's the task number 1. And I did that for 8 hours. So, and then at the bottom, my total time for the day, or for this week, is 48 hours and 45 minutes. So, looks like I get to leave a little early today. So that's how you create an appointment. and log your time.